Hey everybody, welcome to episode 110, I believe it is. Last one was 109, but I don't think I said anything about it. But you guys get it. It's part three of three, 420, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And here is the ugly. I do want to continue a little bit though from part two since I'm fresh off of it. Another problem with the Nazis and Hitler was my friend that I've discussed in a past episode, former friend. I don't even know if the guy's alive anymore. I do have the sense to get away from people that are not going to be good for me. I have that's I'm not the best sense of judge of character, but I do understand when this guy's going down a shitty path, and I don't want to end up on that path with him and maybe get hurt, killed, influenced badly. So it was my friend, one of my best friends, fourth through ninth grade, um, Mike, and he ended up becoming a half black skinhead, which I'm actually writing a book about it. So I'm going to use some of the stories I've garnered through those 5 years of knowing him, and a few years later, also of knowing him because I was separated from him for like 3 to 5 years, and then tried to become friends again. And then just realized that he was fucked up and hanging up with fucked up people. So that was the one other Nazi story that I didn't mention in part two was um, meeting him. I hadn't seen him in a while. And he's like, let's get together and watch a football game. I'm going to bring some people. I'm like, oh, God. When I hear bring some people, I get a little nervous now. That statement frightened me to my core some 30 years later. But I'll tell you the story because it is funny. He's a skinhead now. And I meet him at this bar called Zenobia's, 13th in like Pennsylvania, I believe. It was basically downtown Denver, a few blocks from where I lived. And he brings this big guy, and he was kind of a well-known skinhead because he was scary, and we'd see him at a lot of. I hung out with a lot of goth people and watched and enjoyed that music and loved those clubs when I in late '80s, early '90s, and this guy was like, and that's the problem. A lot of skinheads and Nazis like that music too, and this guy was there all the time. So he brings this guy, and he brings two what they used to call them skin bitches back then, and brings the guy, and we're watching the Bronco game, and the I remember this part vividly where Mike's talking to this guy. I don't even know his real name. He's like, you're a sick boy. He's like, yeah, you think I'm a sick boy? And Mike's like, yeah, you're a sick boy. He goes, yeah, I guess I'm a sick boy. He turns around, he's got sick boy tattooed on his neck on the back. That was not done very much in 1991 or 92 whenever this happened. The other memory I have of this particular incident, or two more memories. So maybe this will be a part four because this was so crazy. So we're leaving the bar. The Broncos won or lost. Who cares? And he turns to me as we're about to leave, and he goes, "How long's it been since you've been laid?" And I go, "I don't know, like 5 months." And he takes me by the lapel. I had a jacket on. He just smacks me across the face and goes, grabs me, and then grabs me by the lapel. Hey, you're a good-looking guy. You should be getting pussy all the time. I'm like, okay, thank you. And right after he smacked me across the face, the whole bar turned like we're gonna throw down. No, he's huge. I was weighing like 160, 170 back then. He was 200 pounds in all muscle. He would have torn me apart if I would have done anything back, even if he was my friend. And so that happens. Then we go outside. Literally, like 1 minute later, this poor like, and I'm trying not to be offensive, but literally what we used to call a wetback, and it's not an insulting term, or it is an insulting term, but this guy was straight out of Mexico. I mean, he had the cowboy hat on, the belt buckle like as big as his head, cowboy boots, and so he is a Mexican native living in Denver now, but probably hasn't been here very long from the looks of him, and he's really thin, pretty tall, like 6 feet tall, probably weighs a buck 40. And Mike just goes up to him. This guy knows his spidey sense goes off instantly. As soon as Mike goes up to him, this guy's like, no, 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 no. He's, he couldn't remember any English if he even knew that much. And Mike goes, I just want a cigarette, man, because he saw he had cigarettes in his shirt pocket. And this guy's like, no, 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 no. And Mike, and I knew I couldn't intervene fast enough. Mike literally just goes and grabs this guy in the nuts, puts his hand in his chest, grabs his shirt, and just lifts this guy over his head and drops him on the fucking sidewalk. I'm like, holy shit. And the cigarettes spill out, and Mike takes one all calmly and lights it up. And I'm just like, oh my God. And I help pick this guy up, and I'm like, And this guy's like calling the Mike a cabron and cursing at him in Spanish. I'm like, dude, did he not prove that just now that he could kill you? And Mike's like, what's he saying? I go, oh, nothing. He's just pissed naturally. And Mike's like, okay, better not be. And like, just go, dude, go the other way, whatever you can do. So those were, so, that's some more insane moments I've had with Nazis. But part three, I wanted to be the ugly. So, I mean, obviously, the last two things I just talked about were ugly, but the ugly for 420 is the Columbine massacre. And I may just be able to wrap this up in 4 minutes. I'll try. Obviously, it was a horrible thing. The first really big school shooting, I think, that anyone my age can remember happened in 1999. So this will be the 22nd. I don't like to call it an anniversary because I usually think of celebrations for anniversary, but it is the 22nd anniversary of that. I was living in Cleveland at the time. I was running another theater, and I had a lot of regulars come in. We'd chat, and they got to know me a little bit. And so a lot of them knew I had lived in Denver for most of my life. And this one lady comes in the day it happened, and so I was working in the theater. It was 1999. I didn't know what was going on. She comes in. She's like, "You're from Colorado, right?" And I go, "Yeah." She's like, "What is wrong with your state?" And I go, "What are you talking about?" "Oh, there was just a school shooting there. It was terrible, horrible." I go, "That is horrible, but I don't think you can rubber stamp an entire state by one bad thing happening." Now, when she said school shooting, I thought, okay, maybe a kid or two had gotten shot, or a kid had shot a teacher, or something like that. I didn't think in the terms that this horrific event had occurred. And then as the night went on, you just heard worse and worse things. And like, well, what, 10 people killed, 13 people killed, 15 people killed when you include and I'm not going to say their names because they don't deserve it. But when you can consider those guys killed themselves, 15 people total died, 12 students and a teacher, and these two pieces of garbage. I do remember getting very upset the next day because I went home that night, or probably that night actually too, because back then I had cable, which is the biggest ripoff on the planet. But I was glad I had it then because I just watched everything I could. I did the same with 9/11, and I just got it all out of my system. I don't remember if I cried or not. I definitely cried for 9/11. I don't know if I cried for this. I think I was more in disbelief. As the days went on, I may have wept because it's so just senseless violence is still a mystery to me, an enigma, and I don't understand how anyone can get this angry to do this horrific type of thing to people that never did anything to them, or at least as far as I know, they didn't. Um, it was just, and you learned about the individual stories of some of the students and the teacher, and it's just a horror show. And I'm actually kind of glad I can't go on too much about it. I didn't know anyone that died, or even I have known people that went to that school, but they were out of that school by the time 1999 had rolled around. My best friend Troy, his brother, went to Columbine, but graduated, I believe, in '95. But I knew that area very well because my Troy lived up there for senior year of high school after his mother died, which kind of adds to the ugly. His mom died of breast cancer junior year, and so and she lived near our school, Jefferson, but he had to live with his dad by Columbine. And he's like, I don't want to spend like the latter half of junior year and senior and all of senior year. So he commuted. They let him do that, and it's kind of funny because that actually happened my latter half of senior year when my mom and my stepdad kicked me out when I was 17, and I went and lived with my dad, who lived like a block away from East High. So both Troy and I were commuting very far just to be with our friends every day. But yeah, his little brother went to Columbine, and I knew that area very well. Um, it was it was rough. It was hard to watch, and when you hear these individual stories come out, and I'm sure, as like I may have mentioned earlier, today's actually 4/19. I try to get these out on 4/20. We'll hear a lot about it tomorrow, and it's I don't know why we have things like this in Colorado. Like I said, the good of 420 is marijuana. You think everyone would be mellowed out. It's considered one of the most laid back, when I say it, Denver, one of the most laid back cities in the United States. Yet we seem to be on the cutting edge of horrific shooting events. and I don't really want to talk it about anymore. I'm sure you guys don't want to hear about it anymore. So that's my good, bad, and ugly for 420. I hope you enjoyed the three parts. Thank you so much for listening and dealing with the lighting situation. But it was some of the subjects were dark, so maybe it should have been dark. Thanks again, you guys. I appreciate your listenership. That's about it. See you next time. Thanks. Bye.